If you have leftover fabrics from other projects, it can be like free things you can make for yourself that won't take up much of your supplies. That's just another level of happiness. I'm sharing 2 sports bras that fit amazing that I've made with just scraps. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and in this case, bra sewing. Now, I'm never gonna make proper bras. I'm gonna just lay it out there. I'm not gonna make the proper lacy underwire bras that you can buy. Not interested. I am interested in making sports bras. And a few weeks ago I made a plans video sharing with you the patterns I was interested in. If you haven't seen that video, this is how the thumbnail looks, and I'll leave it linked down below. I showed you a huge bag of scraps I had saved up just for these projects, from making jackets and leggings and dresses. I use a lot of athletic knits. They are pretty pricey, and I always have random pieces that are not going to work for a proper garment, but I always thought in the future for bras it would be perfect. And I've used some of the scraps from that bag to make 2 bras today. This is the Corset top and bra from GreenStyle creation. The pattern is really cool because it's not just a bra. It could be a crop top or just a regular top that sort of reaches the high or mid hip, but has all the shaping that looks like a corset, but there's no boning involved. So on the front, you have 5 pieces, a center, some middle pieces that include the straps here, and then the side pieces that have the princess seams. The back is just 1 piece. This is not a racer back or anything. It's just sleeveless, and it has a U back. It's fully lined, and for the corset and the top view, you can add a shelf bra inside also. And you can also just make it as a bra and add a band at the bottom with elastic. So I think the pattern can go a long way. And the seam lines are really beautiful. The scoop neckline isn't too low, it's not too revealing. There's a lot of nice cover here on the armhole also. You need knit fabrics for this project, of course. Athletic knits will always be the best in my opinion. Or your blends of nylon, spandex. Spandex can also be called elastane or lycra. It's the same component that gives the stretch to the fabric. You can also find blends polyamide and spandex, or polyester and spandex. You need it to stretch nicely. So this is a garment you're pulling on and off your body. There's no closures here, so it does need to stretch and fit nicely. It has a nice amount of negative ease so that it gives you that support. You also need some lining fabric to go inside. You also need clear elastic to stabilize all the seams of the neckline and the armhole. And for the band that goes underneath, you have an option of using 1 or 2 inch white elastic. The pattern piece just has a different line for whichever width elastic you're using. Of course, I didn't have either 1 or 2 inch elastic. I had 1.5, so I just modified my band at the bottom to match the elastic I had. It's still going to work. For the lining, I suggest using something firm, something supportive, not something really light and flimsy. For both of my bras, I've used pretty medium to heavyweight fabric. One of them has supplex in there, similar to the main fabric I was using, just in another color. And for the other one, my lining is actually a little heavier than parts of my main bra, and it's the heaviest knit fabric I have. The same fabric I used to make my flare leggings the other day, the blue pair that I've shown you. I had offcuts, random amounts left over, and it was just enough to cut parts of my bra and the lining, so that was really good use of that fabric. That fabric is amazing. It feels so supportive on, so nice. You can also use a layer of power net in between these 2 layers. I prefer to interline every single piece, cut the same shape out of the power net, baste it on together, and then the main and the power net can act as 1 piece. It's easier to sew that way, and you're dealing with less layers. It'll be less bulky in the long run. For this one, I used power net on all the pieces, including the back piece, everywhere. And in the sewing segment, I'm going to show you a little trick I did to make it even more supportive there with that power net. Sizing is from B to M. That'll go up to a full bust measurement of 61 inches and a hip of 62. Although this top doesn't reach the full hip, it'll reach the mid hip. It is a fitted top. You are meant to choose your size based on your high bust measurement right here. When I've taken that measurement, I get a size H, which is usually what I sew for GreenStyle. I usually have to blend to a size I for the hips. Not in this case because I'm just making a bra. And now there is a small cup, a medium cup, and a large cup option for the pattern. So if you have a smaller chest and the difference between your high bust and your full bust is 0 to 2 inches, then you would use the small cup. If it's 3 to 4, then you would use the medium cup. That's the one I've chosen because my difference is 3. And then the large cup is going to work for 5 to 6 inches of difference between the high bust and the full bust. They do give you a finished garment measurement from the back of your neck, from the nape down to the hem. It's about 17 inches for the top. So that is around the length that you'll get. If I measure that on myself, just because I'm a little tall, it would be a pretty short top. I know if I made the top, I'd have to lengthen it a little bit so it's not too short. But I'm not talking about the top at all. I am focusing on the bra because that is what I wanted to make. I went ahead and made a muslin, having really high hopes that it was going to fit properly, that I was going to get a wearable garment. That's what happened with my power sports bra I made last week. I made a wearable muslin just as is, choosing my size based on the chart. And the fitting adjustments I needed to make to that was so minor, just add a little bit more cover here. So I took the same approach here. I made it just as is, medium cup, size H, and I sewed it up. I even did the power net, I did everything. And this is what I have. All the fabrics here are suplex materials. They're all left over from other projects. With this stripy fabric, I've made a pair of joggers and a dress. I'll put the pictures here of the garments so you can see. They aren't all active type styles, but it is active wear material. And I've cut the princess seams on the side on the bias. My voice is still not good, by the way. I've just cut that like that just to give it a little bit more interest. I have a random piece of grey material I used to make my son a pair of joggers a few years ago. I have black suplex there. The back is like that. And look, I had to add a piece of grey fabric right there just to complete the piece because my stripy fabric wasn't big enough. So I'm open to color blocking if I can get my pieces to be the size they need to be. And that doesn't affect the fit or anything. It's just making up for the length I was missing there. And I have black suplex for the band underneath. That's got the elastic inside. I've sewn it in the exact same way I've sewn the elastic on the power sports bra. You can check out that video. On the inside, the lining is just one piece. It's different to the pieces that have all the shaping for the cups. This is slightly smaller. It has a little bit more negative ease. It's going to be supportive inside. And this fabric is really, really firm and nice. I have the same one on the back. Now I do have yardage of this black suplex because I use it for everything. So that wasn't from my scraps, that was from my stash. In my previous video about this power sports bra, towards the end I had a little bit of a chat about how I'm comfortable modeling these to you. So I'm not going to repeat everything. So let's see how it looks. You're just going to see the bra, not my full midriff or anything. This has got enough coverage. So let's see how this one fits. This is my muslin for the corset bra from GreenStyle. I played with stripes here, had a lot of fun. This is size H with the medium bust cup size. There are 5 pieces on the front and 1 on the back. I'm really happy with the fit here, totally wearable. The only thing I do is raise the armhole a tiny little bit. It's fully lined. I've also interlined it with power net. Very comfortable to wear. If you're subscribed to the newsletter from GreenStyle, you get one at the beginning of each month. And one of the items they share there are the 3 patterns of the month. They choose 3 patterns that are for the whole month discounted by 15%. So you find that already discounted when you look at the website. 3 patterns this month are the Bianca pullover, the flare leggings, I've already made a video about them, and the corset bra. So these 3 patterns are 15% off through the month of March. I'll leave all the links down below in the description box. You can see that the fit for this muslin was really good. The cover on the armholes was amazing at the back. Nothing digs into anywhere. There's clear elastic on all the seams and it's so comfortable. The only thing, if I wanted to be nitpicky, was I just wanted a little bit more coverage. Just 3/8 of an inch right here underneath. Super easy to do. And I'll show you the pattern adjustments I made to just add a little bit more cover here to the armhole. These are some of the pieces that compose the front. The center front is missing here, but that doesn't matter because it doesn't affect the armhole. And you can see the original line is the blue line. This is the extra that I've added to the armhole, and I've done it the same way I did with the Power Sports bra. Have a look at that video. I basically added extra paper to both of these. I pinned them as they would be sewn, pushed the seam allowance up on the paper. You can see the original line, which is the blue line, and how I've raised it by 3/8 and then just joined the curve up to about the middle of the armhole there. And that is all the extra coverage I needed to add. I did the same to the lining pieces and to the back piece. So in the next segment that has all the sewing, you're going to see my final sports bra that I made also with scraps but in different colors. Little trick I did with the power net. I actually traced my bra pieces onto brand new paper because I didn't want to cut up the main pattern piece that includes the longer lengths. I might want to use that later. So this is one of the pieces. I actually cut another piece that is a little bit smaller. You can see around the whole edge of the pattern piece, on the sides, everywhere, including the bottom. It's about 1/8 of an inch smaller than the main pattern piece. And this is what I've used to cut my power net, so that it's a tiny bit smaller than the pieces. It's just going to make it firmer, but that is totally optional. This is something I've decided to try with this bra. The other one I made before, I cut my power net in the same shape and size as the main pieces. And then just the general construction. So let's hop into there. I'm sure this is going to help you put it together if you want to try a style like this. And then if you make the top, it's the same thing. You're just making it longer, you know, and you're not putting the band of the elastic underneath. These are the pieces I need to make my corset sports bra. You can also make a longer top, a crop top, or just one that hits a mid-hip, but I'm focusing on the bra. These two blue pieces are the lining pieces. This is the back, that is the front. The front is one whole piece, and that is in contrast with all the pieces you use for the front. And these are the front pieces. You can see that the front is composed of 5. You have your front side pieces, your middle front pieces, those ones, and then the center front right there. So a lot of princess seams to put together there, but nothing complex at all. For the back, it is the same lining and the main. For my main here, I have done a little bit of color blocking there. I just added an extra seam and joined those two fabrics, but it's not going to affect the fit. It's exactly the same piece as we have there. This is the band that will go at the bottom with the elastic inside. I have actually stabilized all my pieces with power net on the back. You can see they are all hand basted in. This is interlining. I will treat this as it's one piece. You can see it's a little crumpled there, and it's because I've cut my power net slightly smaller than the main pieces just to provide a little bit more support. But once everything is sewn and it's on the body, it'll be fine. It's not looking completely flat right now, and it's because the bottom layer is a tad smaller. These lining pieces, super easy. You just put them right sides together and sew the shoulder seams, and you can put that aside. I'm also going to take the back piece of the main and put it aside, and I'll just dedicate a few minutes to put all these together. Princess seams, this one that unites that one is a pretty straight seam there, and another princess seam. I'm going to be doing this at the sewing machine and using a shallow zigzag. I think that's going to give me a flatter result than doing it directly on the serger. This is the center front, and these are the middle front pieces. You can see this one has a particular shape. This longer curve here is part of the armhole, and this shorter curve is part of the neckline, and you'll see a straightish edge that will match the center front right there. So that is how this goes together. So I'm just going to put them right sides together, pin them, and sew these seams. I'm using a jersey needle. In this little packet I have all sizes, and I'm going to use the largest one here, 90/14. My athletic knits are not very lightweight. I'd say they're medium to heavy, and on some of them I'll go through several layers. For basically most of the seams I'll be using a shallow zigzag. It's very narrow width, so it'll look almost like a straight stitch, and that's the length that will allow the stretch that you need to pull the bra over your head and to take it out without anything popping. Okay, so these 3 pieces are sewn. I'm just going to put the pieces together, and then I'm going to top stitch. So now we bring in the side fronts right here. These are the princess seams. So now we just put these right sides together and pin them and sew them in the same way. The way I like to pin these together is to pin this side and then that side first, and then start making my way into the center. I'll just show you a little bit. I don't like showing pinning because I find it extremely boring, but on some seams it can be interesting. So I'll just match up the bottom edges and then take this curve and match it up to the top here. It's been trued, so you just match up the edge completely like that and pin it. When I sew a princess seam, I like to have this convex curve on top. I feel that I can control more because this is sometimes where you can get puckers. So this is why I'm pinning like this, and I've done a bit on the top, and I'll just do a little bit here on the bottom, and everything's going to match perfectly. You don't need to stretch the fabric to fit the curve. This is what I mean about that excess, but it's not that it's excess in the length, it's just the seam allowance that creates that excess. But if you pin at the seam line at 3/8, it matches perfect. So that's why I want this curve on top, so that I can control and see what's going on here when I sew. So you can see that excess in the seam allowance, but there's no excess on the actual curve. On this other side is perfectly fine. So when you pin, try to sew looking up at that one. You have much better control of what you're doing. And I'll just repeat that on the other side. You can see it's a really smooth curve right there. Now that all the seams for the front have been sewn, I'm going to top stitch, and I'm just going to use my twin needle. So these seams, I'm going to bring them underneath the blue fabric so that I can top stitch on the blue right there. And then the princess seams, I'm going to push them towards the center, and that means I'm going to be top stitching on the blue fabric also. I really don't want to top stitch on the print. This seam I could have pushed towards the center and it would have been fine also. But as I said, I'd rather keep the top stitching on the solid. This one, definitely you need to press it towards the center. It's less bulky that way, because then your seam allowance is fully extended inside. If you want to press it towards the other side, you're going to have all that bulk under there. So definitely you want to top stitch the princess seams towards the center. Okay, the front is done. All the pieces are sewn and top stitched. Now we can bring out main back pieces, just one piece here cut on the fold, and align the shoulder seams and sew them together. I'm also using a shallow zigzag here, and I'm going to be opening these seams to just make it as flat as it can be. And with the lining, it's the same. Here's my lining, and I've already sewn the shoulder seams there. I did that before. Once we sew these shoulder seams, we can put these two together at the neckline. By the way, I've been removing basting stitches as I sew. Okay. After shoulder seams have been sewn, I've just extended the piece. This is the back, this is the front. I've got it with the fabric right sides up. And now I'm going to take the lining and put it on top, right sides together, matching the back with the front and matching the shoulder seams. Now we're going to pin the neckline and sew it together on the round, and I'll be using the serger for that. Okay, so the neckline is sewn, and now I want to add clear elastic. I like to do it in a separate step, that way I can control where the zigzag is going to hit, and make sure that the elastic is a little beyond the seam there, so that when we flip this to the right side, and it will make the lining stay inside without being seen. I'm using a medium-sized zigzag, nothing special, and I'm just going to go all the way around the neckline, just fixing it on, and I'm going slowly to conform to the curve, and always making sure the elastic is a little beyond the seam. This is why I don't attach the elastic at the same time while I'm sewing the seam. Remember, you're always sewing the clear elastic on the main fabric, so that is the side you want to be sewing on the clear elastic, not on the side of the lining. Make sure to just leave the clear elastic as it is. Don't stretch it out. You need to sew it 1 to 1. It needs to just follow along and not be stretched. Okay, now that we've sewn the neckline, we can turn the neckline right sides out like this and just flip it. Okay, so here we have the lining is inside. You can see that the clear elastic trick is going to make this roll to the inside. It's going to be super neat. Now what we need to do is finish one armhole and then the other. This is just using a burrito roll for a leaveless finish. It's the same thing you do with a woven. Just take this, open it up, and bring the other side and just put it inside. Wrap this around, and then you meet your seam right there. Keeping all of this inside. We have one part of the armhole here. Keep everything rolled up in there, and you bring this, wrap it around, and you can see that we have an armhole here, and the rest of the top is tucked in inside in a roll. Or just pin that and sew that. After serging it, we're also going to sew the elastic right there. It's the same thing as we did with the neckline. I'm sewing the seams of the neckline and armholes with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. That means I'm not trimming anything away with the blade. I know the official seam allowance is 3/8, but it won't really affect anything other than just getting a bit more coverage, which is always welcome. And when you get to the shoulder area, it's not that small that everything inside is going to be super tight, but just make sure you put your fingers here and be careful that you don't catch what's in there in your actual seam. Okay, now I'm going to sew the clear elastic on top. I'll do that off camera because it's the same thing. The only difference here is that I'm going to stop the elastic about 5/8 of an inch from the edge. I don't want it to go all the way to the edge. If I do leave it all the way to the edge, it'll be bulky at a later stage there when we sew the side seams. Okay, this is the armhole that we've just sewn, and now we're just going to flip it. Just take everything and just gently push it through. It'll come out, no worries. If you're making the top, you have a little bit more fabric because your top will be longer, but it'll all come out. You can see. Okay, so at this point we have the neckline finished, we have one armhole finished right there, but we still have this other one that's open. So let's just bring all of this into the center here, open up these shoulder seams, wrap this around, and then just meet your seams for this new armhole that we're going to sew. Then once we sew this one, when we flip it, both armholes and neckline will be finished. This is the next seam. Okay, that's the second armhole sewn, so let's just pull it all out again. Don't worry, it will come out. Okay, so here it is, pretty messy, unpressed, all of those things, but we have the main on top and the lining on the bottom. And now all we need to sew are the side seams, so just bring them together like this, right there. Now here you need to make sure that the seam allowance is pointing towards the main fabric right here, both sides. Make sure it doesn't go towards the lining or else it's just not going to lie right afterwards. This is why we didn't want to have elastic right up to the edge here. We want this just to be free because it'll be less bulky like this. I'm just meeting these seams and putting a pin, and I'm going to sew from the lining first and go over this seam right there and catch the main. So that's on one side, and on the other side it's the same, like this. Open them up, put them right sides together, and sew these seams in the same way. That's one of the side seams sewn. You can see the seam allowance is going towards the main fabric on both sides. Pull out these basting stitches as we go. So I can press the seam open like this and then fold it onto each other there, and that's how this is going to finish. This is why we didn't want to have clear elastic right up to there. I think the clear elastic starts somewhere around there. It just reduces the bulk, and that's how the side seam is going to look. Here I have the other side seam. I'll just get this one sewn. Both side seams are sewn, and basically the main part of the bra is done. Still looking pretty messy, but it needs to be tidied up and pressed. What I'm going to do now is just align the bottom edge and just baste it together so it just acts as one piece. And then here I have the band that's going to go on the bottom. This bottom band is slightly smaller than the bra, so you need to divide it into 4. Also divide your bra into 4, and I'm going to use the same method where I put the elastic inside the band first. You can see that it fits almost. You can see I've got a little bit of fabric there that doesn't have the elastic, but I'm going to have this done, basted right there, and then I'm going to sew this onto there, and that will catch the elastic on that seam. So it'll be the same exact process I did with the Power Sports bra, so I'm not going to film that again. You can see it over on that video. It'll be the exact same thing. This is my final corset bra. I made it from bits and bobs I had from the past. This blue print I've made the spark leggings with. Also the Alba jacket from Sinclair. I had tiny bits left over, and it was enough for these princess seams, the center piece. And at the back I used just navy suplex, and just to make it tie in with the front, I used a little bit of a scrap I had left over and did a little bit of color blocking there. Doesn't affect the fit. I just drew the line on the pattern, added seam allowance, and sewed them together. And then this blue is the leftover from the flare leggings that I made the other day, also from GreenStyle. So very good use of scraps. I love how this turned out. The fit here under the armhole is so good. And the reason I want some bras that are really covered here is because I want to wear these tanks that are a lot more open. You know, those tanks that are very open on the side. So that was my goal there. And the coverage at the back also is very nice. The blue fabric from the flare leggings is the heaviest, most supportive fabric I own. and it was perfect to make the lining inside. I just had enough for it, and it's also got a brushed feel that is so soft on the skin. So that is inside. You saw that clear elastic trick that I do that keeps the lining inside. It's super neat. Now these bras, when you look at them, they don't look super impressive because the fabric doesn't press well. But when you put them on, everything goes where it has to go. And I feel that making the power net that slightly smaller than the main pieces also helps with support. So it's amazing. I got a free bra out of scraps. Amazing. Let's see. This is my second corset bra from GreenStyle in size H, medium cup. I love the colors here. It is fully lined. It's also interlined with power net here for extra support. For this one, I did raise the armhole by 3/8 and it's got a really great cover and support there. I love the color blocking. It's super fun. I love the fit and the look. It's very comfortable. The best thing is that it's a scrap buster, and this is going to match my spark leggings. Super fun project. This is the second sports bra I make. I'm very happy with the results. I'm feeling much more confident with each project I tackle, and I'm feeling very happy, especially because I'm using like no fabrics, no new fabrics, no extra fabrics. I've made so many leggings and things, and I've got so many beautiful fabrics to use up to make these garments. Don't forget to check out the patterns that are 15% off during March. GreenStyle, the flare leggings, the corset bra, and the Bianca pullover. I'll leave everything linked below. And also, I've created a new playlist on my channel that is going to hold all the sports bra videos together, so you can click there, find them really easily. That I will also link that down below. I hope you have a great weekend of sewing. If you do that, I'm going to be sewing a woven project. Super excited about it. Bye, and thanks for stopping by.